It's 3:15, and that means it's time for...
The Real Deal with Bill McNeil.
That's right. Welcome once again to The Real Deal with Bill McNeil. I'm your host, Bill McNeil, and you're probably wondering exactly what is The Real Deal today.
Hey, good question.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes. It's time for some more comic industry news. Today we're going to be talking about some DC comic stuff, specifically Jonathan Kent. It appears that they are changing the character a bit. They are going to be changing his origin just a tiny bit in Superman, Son of Kal-El. Plus, there's some other foreshadowings that the character is going to take on a little bit of a different importance in the DC Comics universe once Tom Taylor comes aboard on that series. So I've got a couple of screen caps. They're spoilers. I don't think they're going to spoil the story, but just another example of what they're doing with John Kent moving forward. After that, we'll talk about the new costume for Batgirl, Barbara Gordon as well. Bruno Redondo, the artist on Nightwing, unveiled a new costume. Looks pretty good. We'll talk about the details of that. Definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts on these spoilers for Superman, Son of Kal-El, and the way that they're changing Jonathan Kent. Once you get the information, are you excited about it? Let us know in the comments section. And definitely the new costume for Barbara Gordon. Do you think it's a good change? Is it time for Barbara Gordon to get a new costume, that's more in line with maybe some of the other Batman characters, just as far as the cowl and stuff? First up, we do need to get into Superman, Son of Kal-El #1. It comes out next week, and we've got a couple of spoiler images. These aren't mine. These are from Bleeding Cool, and they're just little bitty, clips from them. So not a whole lot of information, but certainly shines a light on what they're going to be doing with Superman now that John Kent, is taking over for his father as he goes off to World. If you are unaware, John Kent was originally born in Superman Convergence, which is a pre-New 52 universe with Superman and Lois, where he was born in the Batcave of Thomas Wayne. In Superman Reborn, that was kind of merged, and he was born in the Fortress of Solitude with Batman and Wonder Woman kind of standing guard, as I think some organized crime was targeting Clark Kent and Lois Lane. Now, he's still going to be born at the Fortress of Solitude. Batman and Wonder Woman are still going to be there, but it's going to be happening during an attempted alien invasion. There's an ongoing joke, I guess, that there's an alien invasion, and then it's an attempted alien invasion. Like, I guess they keep, I don't know. We'll have to see how the whole issue goes out. It feels just like a little punchline that keeps going on. Just as some of the things we've seen. But the more important thing is the birth of Jonathan Kent. It's being changed a little bit. And once he's born, this is what Wonder Woman has to say, who plays essentially the role of like a midwife. She's helping Lois give birth. And certainly it appears from these words that perhaps John Kent is taking more of a messianic role in the DC universe moving forward. The birth of this child is the single most important event occurring. Your son could be the greatest hero the world has ever seen. Very fortuitous words of Wonder Woman when speaking of John Kent. We do know that John Kent is going to be Superman coming up. It kind of falls in line with some of the things that we saw in Peter J. Tomasi's run, where Clark and Lois were unsure of what John Kent's power set was going to be. They knew he was going to be powerful, but because he had Kryptonian and human ancestry now, how was that going to change the powers that Clark knew that he had as Superman? Would he be more powerful? Would he be less powerful? Would his powers adapt and change? We've certainly seen that that's been the case in Superman 31 and 32. They changed the way that he's using some of his powers. They've been fighting the Shadow Breed, one of the older villains as far as Superman goes. And it turns out in issue 31, Superboy, well, he's Superboy still. He's not Superman yet. He can detonate his heat vision midair by crossing the stream. Like if he crosses his heat vision, like he crosses his eyes, he can detonate his heat vision. Clark Kent's never done that as Superman. So that was a new power that he discovered. You have to remember, John Kent has had these powers and has had a father that was a powered up figure since birth. So he's been training him in all these things. So he's learned to control these things at a much earlier age, and he's adapting them differently than his father. In issue 32, that continues when it's revealed that the Shadow Breed were previously destroyed using a bomb which released hyperviolet light. Clark doesn't know what to do, and John realizes that he can switch between different spectrums of light, finally finding hyperviolet light as he's switching between that. I believe it's in between, it's near it's in between the X-ray spectrum and the ultraviolet spectrum, and he finally finds it, and it turns out it works. He's able to release the Thecramites from the Shadow Breed's control. So he was able to release them under the control of the Shadow Breed. So he's using his powers differently. So we're seeing an evolution of John Kent. We're seeing Wonder Woman, upon his birth, now that's been altered a little bit, saying this could be the most important event. Your son could be the most powerful hero the world's ever seen, or the greatest hero the world's ever seen. These are all very interesting things. I do feel like not thinking about what Brian Michael Bendis did with John Kent. These almost feel in line with what Peter J. Tomasi was doing with Clark Kent and John growing up, where they're kind of testing his powers and his dad is teaching him how to use them. And you expected there to be some type of deviations. I think it's cool that they're leading into this. Another interesting thing to keep in mind is that during Infinite Frontier number 0, when the Spectre was talking to Wonder Woman, he warned her that there was the potential that John Kent, because of his powers, would become like a tyrant. And this is the way he explained it: conceived on one world, born on another. Both are gone, lost in space with years with the madman. Obviously speaking about the Brian Michael Bendis, where his grandfather lost him, and he was on with the crime syndicate on Earth 3, imprisoned and tormented by a broken version of his own father. Once again, speaking of that, he came of age 1,000 years after his birth, and then returned here a grown man with the title he can never earn, talking about Superman. Today he tries to honor the legacy of Superman. I see him becoming a tyrant. I don't believe those things are fortuitous, but it could foretell something in some challenges that John Kent is going to have to overcome. We can see he's obviously emulated his father. He's deviating from his father's power sets, and he's kind of becoming his own man. I personally wish that we would just go back in time and we would skip what Brian Michael Bendis did with the character. But it does feel like Tom Taylor is embracing the change and what has happened. Philip Kennedy Johnson's obviously been preparing this John Kent Superman Son of Kal-El story, or the series that's coming up. This is being pitched as the main line, the very top build Superman comic that's going to be out there over Action Comics, even though that one features Clark Kent. Wish we could go back and undo the Brian Michael Bendis stuff, but it feels like Tom Taylor's working with that, and he's weaving in things that were like seeds that were planted during the Tomasi run. And we'll see where it goes. Are you happy with these changes? Definitely let me know those in the comments section. That should be out next week. Like I said, I don't think that really spoils the issue. That's like one reveal that we're going to get in there. Next up, we do have a new costume for Batgirl. This is done by Bruno Redondo. This is going to debut in Nightwing in the not too distant future. Bruno Redondo is the artist with Tom Taylor on the new Nightwing series. This is a new purple suit featuring a black cape with a yellow interior, a black cowl, boots, and pouches with a yellow bat symbol featured on their chest. Other cool features are her eyes are white, similar to what we've seen from Nightwing and Batman, as well as her cape is now made of intelligent fabric that turns into wings with an electrical charge. That is basically lifted right out of the Dark Knight Returns trilogy, or the Dark Knight trilogy from Christopher Nolan. She's also got a back brace, so they are keeping in mind that she was injured. She's had some modifications, and within the last run, it was stated that one more hit, she could be paralyzed. So her back is fortified with this new costume. Certainly protects her face a lot more. It was almost ridiculous how easy it would have been to recognize Barbara Gordon, in my opinion. So that is the new costume. Is it a good change? Is it a bad change? I say it's perfectly fine. It kind of falls in line with what they've had with Batgirl in the past. It makes some changes. They all make sense. It lifts a couple things from the Batman movies. I think they'll probably work, and people will enjoy this. I'm glad that she's becoming a more featured character in Nightwing. I had heard initially when we had been told that she would be in Nightwing, that it was only going to be for like the first 3 or 4 issues, and then she would exit stage left and go back to Gotham. Obviously, that still may happen, but she still features right now in Nightwing, and I'm glad with that. I think that her, Barbara Gordon, and Dick Grayson are a wonderful pairing, and that they should be together moving forward. So I'm in favor of this change. I think it's a good costume, and I think it's definitely going to work. And that is the DC news for today. We got some spoilers for the upcoming Superman Son of Kal-El featuring John Kent as the new Superman. They're changing his origin story once again. We get some very cool words from Wonder Woman about what John Kent could mean for the world moving forward. Obviously, this does follow up on Infinite Frontier, where we had some, the Spectre was less than impressed with John Kent and was highly skeptical that he would not, in fact, turn into a tyrant, or he would, in fact, turn into a tyrant in the future after all the things that have happened to him. We see that he is adapting, he's adjusting, he's deviating from his father's power sets. He's learning to use his powers differently than his father, and it could very well become a greater Superman in the future. We shall see. And that is a new series, and we got a new Batgirl costume. I think people will enjoy it. And that is the news. I've got another spoiler coming up later that'll be a bit more controversial. We'll see how people feel about that one. But I didn't want to include it in this because it's on a different level. It's got a totally different tone and feel to it. So be looking out for that here in a few hours. Later. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.